Welcome to Deciphering Distortions, the second in a series of 12-part podcasts by the Grand Council, brought to you by Ancient Future Today.
Hello, everyone. We are here to speak with you today about integrity within Deciphering Distortions. And we are going to read to you a definition we have just looked up on the Google apparatus of integral, for indeed this is integral to integrity. And integral is of or relating to or belonging as a part of a whole, a constituent or a component, integral parts, necessary to the completeness of the whole. For example, an example is this point is integral to his plan, consisting or composed of parts that together constitute a whole, entire, complete, as in the integral works of a writer. We will give you a few more words so that you can think about this from a word standpoint yourself and conceptually. What is synonym of integral? Essential, fundamental, basic, intrinsic, inherent, constitutive, innate, structural, vital, indispensable, necessary, requisite, incidental, peripheral. All right, so now we are going to talk about integrity. In your societies these days, there is very little integrity within your society unless you are living in a small village that has always come to one another's aid, or a neighborhood, or a family, or a gathering of friends that have been through school years together, or whatever was in place for you before the chaos really began to exert itself worldwide. And you were beginning to see the distortions, and you were beginning to experience the deterioration of systems and media and financial organizations and this, that, and the other, your health and food systems, etc. Many of you felt that there was an integral understanding of how things worked. Fundamentally, you got that your food was grown by farmers and it was shipped by trucks and ships and planes, and you went to a grocery store and you exchanged your hard-earned money for food that would keep you alive physically. Not so much anymore, is it? You go to your stores and you find food that is still the same price or even much more expensive. And it has sat in someone's warehouse or a cooler truck for a lot longer than it should have. And even though the use by or sell by date says a week from now, it should be still good. If you do not eat it within 1 or 2 days, sometimes it is going rotten on a lot of you. A lot of you are spending a lot more money on your foodstuffs if you are dependent on the grocery stores and the shippers and the farmers at a distance. Many of you are spending lots more money to begin with, and you are wasting a lot of that food, or that food is wasted because it is deteriorating before you can consume it. Now, many of you have decided, instead of having that wastage in your precious budgets of these days, that you are going to shift to foods that are either homegrown or locally grown, or at least do not have to travel halfway around the world to get to you, or they are canned, or they are frozen, or they are in some sort of form that is not as nutritious for you, really, honestly, and yet is more predictable. Because what everyone is looking for is an integrity in whatever it is that you think you are exchanging your energy for, and expecting to get energy back in some form or another. Now, this would be true for all of you. Integrity in, as we started with this trilogy, in relationships, integrity in honesty, integrity in friendships, integrity in marriages and families. And yet, what are we seeing with all of these things in chaos where people are taking stances and creating belief systems out of needs to think that things are more stable and more integral than they seem to be? So people are taking positions about things, again, that if you listen to the relationships, we talked at length about narratives. So people are believing narratives are the integrity that they stand for. It is not that. Integrity is the sort of thing that stands the test of time, and that you are willing to lay down something valuable to protect or to defend or to celebrate. So what do you have integrity about in your life? Is it the standard of communication that you have with your loved ones? Is it in being consistently the same way? Well, that may be one way of looking at integrity. It's also a way of looking at stubbornness and bloody-mindedness sometimes if you cannot shift your thinking. So we would invite each and all of you to look at what you think your integrity is based and built upon, and to actually ask people who know you well if they agree with you. And if so, can they give you some examples of how you have shown up in integrity and how they would like to think of you and your integrity? What have you shown them that has inspired them about your integrity? And we would also invite you to offer these perspectives to people that you know and love, and certainly to your politicians that you may know or think you know and may or may not love. They are, in fact, your employees. And we would suggest that as your employees, they have an integrity for accepting your tax dollars as their payment for their services, and the services that they then give to you, along with the attitudes that they deliver those services. We are talking not just local politicians, we're talking politicians all the way up to, well, however far up a politician goes. Same thing with your healthcare providers. Doctors are not gods. Doctors are technicians. They are well trained, and if they're a good doctor, then they are probably able to tell you what is wrong and some sort of remedies for how that might be. The symptoms and the dilemmas may be addressed and hopefully resolved. Well, who else do you pay? You wouldn't go to a hairdresser and have them just do whatever they thought ought to be done with your hair, unless, of course, you're adventurous and that's the game and that's the experience you are seeking. No, you would go and you would say, I'd like it to be cut and maybe not so much here and there. And if they do not do it the way that you are paying them to do it, sometimes you walk out refusing to pay for what has happened. And they very rightly, if they have not delivered, would very likely say, well, you're right. You did say cut the left off and leave the right, and I got it mixed up. I'm sorry, this is on the house. Your hair will grow and we hope you will come back because now we've got right and left sorted out. You see, so the integrity of your expectations, the integrity of your continuity of behavior and of thinking. And when we say continuity, we do not mean rigid. We do not mean infallible. We do not mean the same over time. What we mean is if you are an honest person, and that means that you are in touch with what you honestly believe and think, and you are very willing to act as if that is true, and you are open to course adjustment along the way, and you deliver your honesty to others as you would like to experience it yourself. It's starting to sound a little biblical here, watch out. Then you probably are an honest person. Now, how do you know you are in the company of someone with integrity? Ask yourself that question very honestly, for there is a knowing inside of every single human being. Even a brand new child, brand new baby, knows if they are being held by someone who has integrity or who is out of integrity. And we would say perhaps one of the aspects of integrity is alignment. Alignment with what then? Well, of course, we would promulgate your true north. We would promulgate right relationship with yourself and others and the world and the earth. And we would also suggest that if you are an honest person, there is more integrity and honesty than there is in dishonesty, in our view. In fact, the oracle often jokes that she trusts criminals who have been proven to be criminals more than she trusts many people who are walking around who are behaving in that way and are getting away with it, where they look one way and do something else in the dark. So you see, there are many ways of looking at integrity. We would say alignment, we would say seated in your honesty, right relationship, right action, acting when you're on your own, as you do when you are with others, so that there is not a public persona and a private persona, that there is an integrity of being, an authenticity of being. Sure, you might be more gregarious when you're with others, and you might be more retiring when you're on your own, if this is how you refurbish your energy system. And yet, the person that you are is recognizable in whatever scenario you are in, that you are not a chameleon. No matter what your astrology is, you are still more integral when you are being fundamentally the same wherever and with whomever and under whatever circumstances you find yourselves. And we would say that one of the ways your world is going to find its way into a fundamentally better condition than it is today in 2021 of November is that more and more of you have been becoming more integral with more integrity. More and more of you have had to become more honest with yourselves because you have lost some of the status or some of the privileges or freedoms or illusions or whatever you have lost during the last few months, the last few years. And you have had to think about things like, well, if we were in the habit of being in debt before, can we afford to continue to pile up debt because there isn't any more income coming than there ever was? Or are we really going to spend our money on sugary foods for our children? Or are we going to spend this amount of money on better food for our children because that will give them more nourishment, it will give them more life energy, and we can wean them off of all the sugar and the refined flours and everything that is not good for their systems. Even though before we had the discretionary funds to be able to do that, now we still have the same amount of money if you are lucky and you have not lost your jobs or had to take a wage cut. And what are we going to do with that budget now? What, in other words, are we going to do with this one precious life that we have, both individually and collectively? And this is the major integrity question for all of humanity now is, now that we know that the systems that we have been catering to are not working for us in the ways that we thought they were, what are we going to do in terms of expecting what kind of integrity from our institutions, from our politicians, from our nations, from our villages, from ourselves, from each other? And to start extending that integrity to each other before you wait too long for someone else to start that trend. So as masters on a masterful journey, we invite all of you to step into a much deeper, higher degree of integrity than you have thought of about yourselves or thought yourselves having prior to now, and really look at yourselves very honestly and say, do I tell lies to people? Do I tell lies to myself? Do I do my best? I like to think I do. Do I actually do my best? Am I actually loving to people, or am I stingy with my love? Am I honest in my dark, deep corners of my soul? Do I think I'm a good person? And if I am, then how do I deliver that? And do I think I'm not a good person? And is that okay? And if it is, then I'll stop pretending to be a nice person and let the chips fall where they may. It will be more honest, and it will be a higher integrity for me to be literally who I am rather than a facsimile thereof. Am I afraid? Am I honest enough? Do I have enough integrity to admit to someone that I'm afraid and that I need help, or that I'm struggling and that I need help? Those who are willing to be honest with integrity and in right relationship with themselves and others are going to be the survivors of this period of time on your planet. That has always been true, and never more true than in moments of this sort. And as the saying goes, there can never be a renaissance without dark ages. And you all are in your dark ages right now, starting to see the light, starting to feel the magic that has always been there. It has never disappeared. It has just gotten obscured by all of the flying around of the rubbish and the bits and pieces of flotsam and jetsam of the chaos. So as you co-create your futures for yourselves and with each other, for all of you and for the planet, we ask you to remember that integrity is a very, very important element. For whatever you build, whatever you co-create, whether it is material or it is ethereal, or it is metaphysical or spiritual, or whatever psychological, emotional, whatever aspect of humanity you build, do it consciously, do it honestly, do it in right relationship with integrity. And what you build will be something that you are very happy to experience. And someday to actually look back on and say, we did that consciously together. We built something decent out of chaos. And we can thank ourselves and each other for that effort. Many of you are still around who were born shortly after World War II. Not everyone in the world was affected by that war. More in Europe and other places in Asia, where there was a lot of on the ground experience with war and the devastation of war. And yet many countries, even if you were not bombed in your own mainland, you still felt that you were connected, that there was an integrity to being aware of and contributing to getting the war over and getting peace back onto the planet. It is time now for all of you to seek peace, to seek integrity, honesty, and a relationship that is right with yourselves, with all others. And we do not mean just humans. We mean animals and plants and the planet, and who knows what is on, in, and around your planet these days. All of that. Make peace with that and be in right relationship with all of it. And then take right actions based on all of that honesty, integrity, and right relationship. And then you will be able to be much happier, much healthier, and certainly more peaceful, which, when you think about deciphering distortions, is a long way away from the original theme, and yet that is the whole purpose, is it not? Get these distortions identified and deciphered, and then make choices that are different than what is being presented to you and through you. And do it together. Do it yourself, join with others, do it together. And then it will be sustainable. Remember, you are divine in human form, and you are a master on a masterful journey, that you have a true north, and that you are born with integrity as a sovereign being. Seek that sovereignty within you and live it, breathe it, express it every minute of every day, no matter who you're with, no matter how you actually feel. Seek your sovereignty. And until we have the pleasure and the honor of being with all of you again in the next podcast, we bid you to have a lovely day or evening or both. Have a lovely life and know that we are with you. We and all of your other sources of guidance and love, unconditional love. And for now, adieu.
Thank you for listening. Please join us for future podcasts on this same channel.